This is my perspective discussion series where women talk Budo.
Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode of My Perspective. Here's Cathy, I'm Fran. I hope you remember who we are. And today we have invited Jessica Gerrity, known as Jess in Tokyo on Instagram. She's from New Zealand and lives in Japan. She practices Kyudo and does many more things, I believe. I'll let you introduce yourself, Jess.
Hi. Yes. So I am Jess, Jess in Tokyo from Instagram. How much of a self-introduction would you like? So I have been in Japan about 21 years, and I'm originally from New Zealand. I work on TV and in media in Japan. I work as the tourism ambassador for Saitama. I write for several Budo magazines, and my hobby, my ikigai, I guess you could say, is the Japanese art of archery, which is Kyudo, and I've been doing Kyudo for about 5 years now.
That's amazing. I also wanted to mention that this is a super international episode. Cathy is in Kyoto.
Yeah, that's true.
Where are you based exactly? Well, you're in Tokyo. Jess, I'm recording from London, and the topics that we wanted to talk about today are a little bit about cultural appropriation, and also about gatekeeping in terms of access to martial arts. Cathy, do you want to add anything?
No, I think that's it's two very wide subjects, and we can go into a lot of depth with them both. So, Jess, in your view, who can practice Japanese martial arts? Is there a kind of right profile of who can practice Japanese martial arts? And we wondered if you wanted to talk a bit about your experience with it.
Yeah, so just coming from what I've experienced in the last 5 years, especially being on social media, it doesn't really pertain to who can practice. However, just in my experience, I do receive a lot of sort of opinions and comments relating to that I shouldn't be wearing dogi or kimono. So this is, sorry, it's suddenly taking it in a bit of a negative direction. However, I'm gonna I'll come around full circle in a moment. But just my experience and the kind of comments that I get are just sort of like, why are you in kimono, or why are you in shitatare? Shitatare is like a traditional samurai dress that we wear for sports yabasame, which is horseback archery. You know, like, you shouldn't be wearing it. It's for Japanese people only. I think when people see dogi, they either think I'm in cosplay. I think I'm doing cosplay, or they think that I'm appropriating something. So in cultures outside of Japan, if you have traditional costume or traditional dress, traditional wear, for example, in New Zealand as well, like Maori have their own specific dento, their traditional clothing, I can't wear it. So this is where people get a little confused between martial arts and their uniform, which is dogi and like hakama we wear for Kyudo, and traditional cultural dress, which is every country has their specific things that people can and cannot wear. And there's a lot of the comments that I get are from non-Japanese people. So for a start, they don't live in Japan and they're not Japanese. So, I mean, there have been numerous YouTube videos just going back to wearing kimono, non-Japanese people wearing kimono, numerous videos, about how it's fine in Japan for non-Japanese people to wear kimono. And going over to the martial arts part of it, we're wearing our martial arts uniform when we're practicing. Like, this is not dress up for us. This is, if I came in my regular clothes to the dojo, I would get told off.
You get very told off.
So people kind of this is just the one thing about social media. They see the video or the image and they don't understand the full picture, or they're unaware of the fact that I've been practicing martial arts, or it is a martial art. And this is the one downfall with social media, is you have like an instant stereotype that you get in front of your eyes, and you're not sure like how long this person's been practicing for, if they're a real like martial artist, like what are they doing. You kind of don't know. So I kind of just let those comments pass. However, just that's kind of, in my experience, that's sort of what's been happening. So mostly non-Japanese people saying sort of, why are you wearing dogi? Like, is it cosplay? Or like, you shouldn't be wearing it. Or I'm like, hey, I'm a martial artist. It's my uniform. I have to wear it. So, but yeah, I usually don't talk back to that kind of thing. I just delete the comment or block them or whatever if they're being particularly nasty. However, some people, you tell them and they're like, oh, I had no idea. And so cultural appropriation, in my experience, has just been really, really, especially with social media, being on YouTube or Instagram or this kind of thing, just open myself up to a lot of comments from people who they have a kind of a different idea of who can wear kimono, who can wear dogi, and this kind of thing. So that's just a separate kind of an angle probably to the kind of cultural appropriation that we're going to talk about today. However, that's just sort of, in my experience.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting, because I suppose that, well, you did mention it, that being on social media creates this ambiguity, right? Because in social media you communicate. I see that you go visit different dojos as well, and people don't know the whole background, and people can be very, very violent on social media unnecessarily without knowing. So
people can often say things that they wouldn't say if they met you in real life. They're kind of able to hide behind the screen, and everyone has a platform.
It's just interesting that especially kimono, we know that Japanese people love it when we wear kimono. Wearing kimono is fine. In and out of Japan, it's clothes, it's things to wear. But it's also, it's true, it carries a very deep and long, rich cultural history. So that kind of thing. People see the iri, the collar here on our dogi, and it looks very similar to kimono when we're wearing it. So I can see how people, they kind of take it at face value and don't understand that it's a uniform. Which is kind of, it's interesting.
What some people watching may not know is that recently my husband and Ivan and I were lucky enough to go and meet Jess in Tokyo, and we and you very kindly invited us to watch you train, and we filmed some of it, and it was at Meiji Jingu, spectacular place. And one of my observations was like, oh, the Kyudo uniform is really beautiful. It just looks beautiful, and I would say probably the Aikido uniform is compared to some other martial arts is also quite appealing, but the Kyudo one is really quite beautiful. And I wonder if the aesthetic kind of opens it up for criticism, if a non-Japanese person is wearing that, because it just looks so beautiful, and it's
I think so. It's one of those. It may be one of those martial arts where you'd expect a Japanese person to be doing it, and that's it. Probably the fact that it's sort of minority compared to, for example, karate or judo, which are very well known worldwide. I guess just because it is a bit more of a minority martial art, that people may assume that there aren't that many non-Japanese people practicing it. So I guess some people, for a start, they're like, what are you doing? I have no idea. It looks like archery, but it's very, very slow. It's too slow. If it's a war, you will die. This
You're
kind
gonna
of thing.
die.
Yeah. And then the next thing is just, you're not Japanese, so why are you doing it, kind of thing. So it's very interesting. Yeah.
Do you think that do you know other martial arts where that happens?
Yeah, as far as I know, judo, a friend has had it said to him. Iaido.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, for people that are non-practitioners themselves, it's usually non-practitioners that are saying this kind of thing. Like, you're trying to be Japanese, or you are, the other day, what was my comment? You're a white ninja. And I'm like, okay, a white ninja. I'm like practicing Kyudo. But, I mean, I understand what they're trying to say is that I'm white and I'm culturally appropriating the martial art. But it's like, no, man. I mean, yeah, people get the wrong idea very easily. And it's really difficult to sum up. But other martial arts, other disciplines as well, they get this kind of comment. So I know it's not just me, which is kind of interesting. Yeah.
Actually, I once wrote a very short blog about why I started in Aikido, and in the blog I did mention that the uniform looked cool, and I wanted to try it because the uniform looked cool. But then that phase went very, very quickly, because then you understand that it's just the uniform, what you wear.
Yeah. It does look cool, to be fair. It looks cool.
Yeah, it does look
cool.
But
that's okay. That's okay.
and all that. But then you're not only doing it because of the uniform.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to say. And other ways of cultural appropriation that you think that can appear in besides being criticized of cultural appropriating these activities because you're wearing the clothes. Do you have any other examples in mind, or they're not?
Not really. I haven't personally met anybody that has, like, people's motivations for learning martial art are very, it depends on that person. Like, it's always interesting to have the conversation. Why did you start? Or, what was the reason? And, like, what were the motivations behind it? Because every person, they have different motivations, and it's very personal. But I haven't, thank goodness, come across anybody that's sort of like, how can I say? I've never been to Japan. I love Japanese culture. I saw it in anime, and I want to start insert this martial art here. So it's like, I haven't met anyone like that. However, I wouldn't be surprised if they exist. But yeah, I think it's probably because I'm living in Japan. So for practitioners like yourselves that are living out of Japan, practicing Japanese martial arts, you may have a very different, you may meet different types of people. I think probably to me, most of the people in my dojo are actually, all of them except for me, are Japanese. So there's not much cultural appropriation in that sense happening.
No, that's an interesting point. That's a very interesting point. Like the difference practicing, I mean, probably not even a Japanese martial art, like any art from any place, it's different to doing it in the place where it comes from and where it's being practiced elsewhere. I was thinking also about going back to social media, and what Cathy was asking about, like some martial arts look so beautiful that people use them as instruments to model, basically, to pose with the I don't know, probably doing,
as opposed to showing the art.
Exactly.
To show themselves.
Rather than showing all the different aspects of the art, they just take the aesthetics layer and just that. Have you come across something?
Yes. Now you just reminded me. So there is I won't say male or female. However, there is one practitioner who has practiced previously in their life for longer than I have. I won't say how long. And they have more experience than me. However, they don't go to Okeko regularly. So perhaps maybe once or twice a year.
Oh.
However, they have the muscle memory from doing it for so long that if it's called upon, they can perform the kata properly. And this person is also works in media, and they're Japanese. And like you said, the purpose of their Kyudo is much different to the purpose of my Kyudo. So the purpose of their Kyudo is to be how can I say, in magazines or on TV, doing Kyudo as like a character, or in a drama, we could say, like a soap opera, or as an extra, or in a magazine, or this kind of thing. So the purpose for them at the moment in their Kyudo is they are just there to show an aesthetic and an image, like you said. And then for me, it the place that I'm coming from is I started it, and it was so enjoyable that I thought, okay, I'm just gonna put it on social media and see what happens. Because for me, it was such a unique kind of thing, and I hadn't seen anybody else around me or in my social media sort of sphere that was practicing Kyudo. And I thought, why are there not more people practicing Kyudo? Like, I was really surprised. Everyone's, and even Kyudoka, the Kyudo practitioners are like, we're such a minority Budo, like there's hardly anybody doing it. And I'm like, what? Like, we should be like promoting this, man. It's so much fun. And so I just decided to start putting the journey up little by little on my Instagram from 2017. And people became interested and then asking so many questions, which in turn prompted me to study more because I couldn't answer everything. And, it's helped me learn a lot about the discipline myself. And it's really cool to have people interested in something that you're doing and asking you questions and this kind of thing. So for just going back to that person that I was talking about and myself, the motivations behind doing Kyudo are very, very different. So for me, it really provides stability, and I have 3 children and I work, and it provides this rock for me in my everyday life. It's a really like mental and physical well-being for me, more than this person is showing an aesthetic in the media and doing Kyudo for work. So this is kind of like two separate kind of things. And then the thing that I took issue with was that they had written in Japanese, Kyudo rashi Kyudo. So please hire me, because I will show the real Kyudo, or like stereotypical Kyudo, or what your image of Kyudo is in the media. And this person is Japanese, so to me that seemed to be that they were pushing a sort of a cultural stereotype that real Kyudo is Japanese people. So I was like, this kind of like bothers me, but I can't do much about that. But that's just the way that one person thinks. So Kyudo to them, and trying to be in the media, is a Japanese person doing Kyudo. So whereas I feel like everybody's okay to do Kyudo, and it's not the stereotypical image of a Japanese man or a woman necessarily. I think it's available to everybody, and we can sit gradings in English. We can do our written exams in English. The Kyudo Federation is very international. So that's kind of where I took a little bit of, I don't know, I can't say it's cultural appropriation, but sort of stereotyping based on from the opposite side, which is from a Japanese person's perspective. So that bothered me a little bit.
That's quite interesting, isn't it? I do find that interesting because in some ways this I can understand why people are sensitive about these issues. I can. I can see both sides. However, it's interesting that in this case, and possibly not only this case, but as you say, you practice Kyudo because you love the art, and you love practicing the art, and you want to be true to the art. And actually, that the same can't always be said for other people. And it turns out both Japanese and non-Japanese people.
This is true.
So it's not kind of I feel the same way about Aikido as well. It's like Fran and I were talking about some. I've got a social media account as well, and I like to kind of show the training, and it was something that just kind of like took off. Well, I wouldn't say took off, but the reason I started it was basically to be able to share videos that my teacher had posted, because I only had a private account. And then it kind of, and that was the only reason. But then it was kind of like, well, it's fun to actually for me to document my practice. So similar to you in a way. And but then you do notice people that kind of promote the aesthetic, I suppose, of not only Aikido but Iaido as well. And that is frustrating. And I would say whether that's Japanese or a non-Japanese person, it's it can be the same. Can be said for anybody, really.
Yeah.
I would like to add the gender angle to that, because both of you started with the intention to show the journey and to tell people how good it feels to be doing Aikido and I mean, you're both women doing martial arts, and I wonder if maybe these immediate association with the idea that you are just doing it for the looks happens because you're women, whereas there are other men who also some of them want to document their journey as well, like same type of objective. And there are also men who just, I don't know, they focus on the more acrobatic way techniques look, or more on the strength of the techniques. But maybe they are just judged differently. I'm a woman judging them, so I don't know what other people would say, but I don't know if you have any thoughts about that.
Yeah, it actually, so in my experience, in sort of the whole, it's been very, very positive, probably because of the fact that I'm a woman. And if I look at my follower, my gender, as you can imagine, it's like more than 85% male, the followers on my account. So yeah, which, I mean, if I have a woman follow me, oh my gosh, I'm so happy. I follow them back straight away. It's like a woman that does archery, martial arts, is from New Zealand, or like lives in Japan. I'm going to be following you because you're precious to me. But it seems there are quite a few Kyudo accounts on Instagram, especially Japanese people. There's a really nice Kyudo community on Instagram, and everybody follows each other, lots of students, lots of adults, and there are really good a lot of male practitioners. However, they don't get much love. The Japanese woman and me, and it seems to be like you mentioned, an aesthetic that the women doing Kyudo are like, I don't know. There seems to be some sort of like special thing. I don't know, but there are guys that do Kyudo. So many on Instagram, but they don't get much love. So actually, I should start sharing them a bit more. But it's weird. Like,
it's a bit of a fetishization of
I think
what you're doing.
that may be part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I haven't given much thought to that idea. I came up thinking because in general, when in activities that are male dominated, where there are very few women doing it, the standards that are set to women are much higher. So you don't only need to look good doing it, but also they will look at every detail of your kata, or find any small I don't know, any small thing that doesn't look right, or focus on your ethnicity. You never know. So yeah, that's what I was thinking about by asking that question.
Yeah, sorry, I kind of hijacked it, but interesting though. Yeah, I think but I think Kyudo is very like the men and women, the gender balance within Kyudo, the Kyudo population as a whole is very balanced. There are some martial arts which are very female heavy, and like naginata. Yeah. However, yeah, I mean, and that's really interesting in itself. Seeing how the whole naginata federation works with like really a really large female Japanese population. It's like really interesting to see how the internal structures are of the actual federation compared with Kyudo.
Because you've recently started naginata, haven't you, Jess?
Yeah, about a year ago. Yeah, so I'm sort of noticing how, I mean, I only have Kyudo as my experience, so I'm just constantly comparing the internal structure to the Kyudo Federation and the Naginata Federation. It's like, wow, Naginata is like super, how can I say, I feel like old-fashioned.
Oh, really?
Yeah, even though we complain as Kyudo practitioners, like, oh, it's so like old style and like they never change anything and blah 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 blah. But actually, I can take my tests and stuff. I can take it all in English. They'll provide a translator for me. They're very like forward thinking in that way. Promotion to teaching ranks. It doesn't matter if you're a male or a female. You can get straight to the top. So it's, I don't know. I think like in some ways, Kyudo has a bit more flexibility. That's what I've noticed. Yeah, just in my experience.
That's super interesting.
Interesting.
And I think that this is a like nice segue to the gatekeeping.
Oh yes.
Big. And we wanted first to kind of understand like what is gatekeeping in martial arts in your view, and what experiences can you tell about it?
So gatekeeping, and there are several sort of angles of gatekeeping, I think. Especially the practitioner, I've just written a few notes. Sorry, I'm going to be like, my eyes will be just down here for a second. Practitioner that doesn't allow others to join or give them information about where to start, but they're doing it themselves and they're putting it on social media. For me, that is just like, it bothers me so much. And, where can I get this equipment? Where can I start? How do I start? I'd love to start this and people don't help them or give them any information. And I mean, sure, they can Google themselves, but they're asking a question for info. And they're just like left out in the cold kind of thing. So if I see the sort of person that wants to know about Kyudo specifically, any martial art, I'll try to help them out if they're looking for information, especially horseback archery, because I've found it's very, 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 the information is very difficult to find. There are two types of horseback archery. So Yabusame Shinji, which is the really, really special one. You do very long shugyo, and it's you're riding for a jinja, and it's like the traditional, very, very traditional long shugyo. And then there's the one that I do, which is sports Yabusame. And so people first start, they don't know the differences, and then they'd like to try the traditional one, and they're interested in the sporting one. Where do I get information from? I don't speak Japanese, so this kind of thing, I try to point them in the right direction. So I've how can I say? I heard the other day I received a message asking me my dojo that I'm a member of, Kyudo, they need more members, but the head person, the kaicho, is not interested in having people to like. How do you grow a dojo? How do you get more members? Is what this message that I got. So I said, well, you just need to like, have a kengaku, which means you can come in, like open school, like open viewing, let people come and watch the keiko, the practice. They can just sit, get a feeling for what it's like, because you don't know if you're going to join or you want to join until you see it. And the thing for me as well, on a side note, I saw Kyudo first to know what it was, and that's what really sort of sparked my interest. I saw it in front of my eyes. So for me, seeing it visually and feeling it and watching it, and then you'll get an idea. Usually you'll really, really be interested, or you're not interested at all. And so it starts with, I think, people coming into the dojo and sitting and watching and just having a feel of like what the members are like and this kind of thing. So I suggested this, and he said, okay, I'm going to take it to the kaito, or the top of the dojo, and see what he says, but he doesn't like people to come and visit. So I was just like, okay,
because it's not unusual in Aikido. I know Aikido is a relatively new martial art, so I wonder if that's perhaps more specific to Kōryu, older traditional arts. I mean, perhaps there's a little bit of that in Aikido, but I think not so much. So that's interesting. So the fact that we were able to come in and watch, that was quite unusual, was it?
Yeah. So I mean, the person that contacted me was from England, and it's a British Kyudo. So okay, yeah. I mean, Japan, it depends on the dojo and their rules, and only the members will know. But usually I've had people come in off the street to our dojo in Saitama, and they just knock on the door and say, can I just watch? And my sensei is always going to say, like, sure, just come and sit down, it's no problem. Like, people are always welcome just to come in, but obviously it's a bit scary and people don't know sort of, it's really, you have to be quite ballsy, I think, to be like, hi, can I just watch? But if I had known my dojo was there before I started Kyudo, I probably would have asked if I could come and watch too. So yeah, the way I started was slightly different. However, I like that. But yeah, I was just a little bit surprised to hear. It's one of the ones in England that sort of like, yeah, they want members. However, advertising for an open day, or you have people come in and shoot an arrow just to try it once. And they do this in Japan. They have a trial day where you get to do 2 arrows, and they'll put the glove on you, and the teacher will help you. She'll be the sensei, or the man or the woman will be together with you, and you'll shoot the arrow together. And my kids have done it, and it doesn't need to be this whole thing, that people can get a little quick and fast sort of feeling of, oh, this is what Kyudo's like. Oh, it's way more difficult than I thought, or it's so much fun that, and this kind of thing. So having a trial day or letting people come in. But yeah, he said, I don't think he's going to like that, the boss of the dojo. So I was like, okay, you're going to have trouble like getting new members unless you're a little bit more. So just going back to the gatekeeping, each dojo has their level of privacy that they'd like to keep. I mean, and especially because of coronavirus. However, now that things are we're moving past there a little bit. It really does vary dojo to dojo. So it's been interesting asking people. People message me and ask how they can increase numbers, or how they can get people interested in their martial art. So I mean, social media is great, but yeah, it's just gatekeeping. It can be different, and it may be a different generation of person. They may be older than me, and they have different ideas, and they like to protect the sacred nature of the martial art, and they don't just want anybody like rocking up and taking photos and like destroying the atmosphere, which I understand. However, I think it's possible to strike a balance between getting people interested and having respect for the dojo. You can limit numbers, have only 1 or 2 people each practice to come and see, and this kind of thing to sort of stop it being, too much. But yeah, there are ways around it, and I think in that way, that gatekeeping can be a little bit detrimental to, if you're really interested in, getting more members and that kind of thing. You have to strike a balance, I think, of being open and closed at the same time. Yeah.
So do you think that that's that's the idea that some of these teachers have, is that they feel they're protecting the art?
I would love to ask the man who's in charge of the dojo, like, what his sort of philosophy is on it. And then I think I'd have a much better understanding and I could speak on it a little bit more. But for example, there are, so we can say Kōryu, so the older ryuha for Kyudo in Japan. There are several. And in my experience, it's really polar opposites. So very, very, very open Kōryu with not that many numbers, but they're so open and inviting, and they'll teach you, if you come, I'll show you how to shoot like that. And this is Aikido. So you'll see Aikido a little bit. Kurosu Sensei is a very nice sensei. Everybody's welcome at his dojo, and it's in Sendai. And it doesn't matter if you do Kyudo or not. Like, everybody's welcome, and he'll just show you how to do it if you go there. And he is right now in Italy, Germany, teaching all the dojos in Europe. So he's there helping and teaching in seminars at the moment. So he's on every social media showing like videos, and I mean, he can't speak English. This is the thing. However, he's so passionate about sharing information. He shows you the inside of the, how can we say, the traditional secrets, the manual of the Kyudo book, which his Kōryu is based on, which he'll just post little snippets here and there. So you don't get the whole thing. However, I love that he's showing these like really, really sort of, I mean, you could say secret, that he's explaining them and like trying to promote and share his Kōryu. And then to the opposite side, I have my own teacher he teaches my type of Kyudo, and then he's also part of a Kōryu. And his one is very sort of the opposite side. They do have Instagram, however, there is not a lot of information put on there. You joining it's difficult to find out how to join. It seems to be quite closed. So just these two opposites are quite, like, it really depends on, and I don't know, just this kind of gatekeeping for me is really interesting too. So you have a very open Kōryu and a very shut Kōryu, and they're both Kyudo. And just the differences are really amazing to me.
I'm thinking that one of the factors for wanting to remain more closed is avoiding probably these situations where bringing in new people becomes like some kind of customer service, something like that. You know what I mean? Like, a very commercialized form of bringing new people in. But again, there are strategies in that form of doing things, and you don't need to adopt that whole commercial approach.
Right.
That's very, very interesting. Is there in other episodes we have talked about what so that in Aikido there's it's not something that exists, but there are like some critical, after a certain amount of time, there's a critical moment where people decide to stay or to
Yeah.
do you have that as well in
Yes. And I was talking on like Friday, a couple of days ago, I was talking because we're going to be advertising we do beginners courses for Kyudo once a year. And this is the chance for the general public to join the beginners course. I think it's 10 times. And then you go straight in and you get the chance to become, not chance, you get to choose if you're going to join the dojo or not. You get taught the basics in those 10 times. And they said, like, we could only accept 15 people. And by the end of the course, only 10 people stayed. And then they will go on to do shodan, so they'll get their first grading. And then another half will leave after getting shodan. And I'm like, why are they leaving? So we were laughing about it because, wow, it's not really something to laugh about, but I'm just like, are you telling them, like, manage expectations? Because right at the start, you need to tell them we had 150 applicants and we could only accept 15 people. And if you're going to have 10 of the 15 people leaving, within a month or 2 months or a year, like, then, volunteer teachers are spending their weekends training these people. Kind of thing. We have to be a bit of a, like, how can we improve this? Because, so it's with the same with any martial art. I think people get into it and then they realize that it's too much or it's not for them. Depending on the dojo, they'll find teachers are picking on them or they don't get along with the sensei. There is someone in the dojo that makes them uncomfortable, and especially if you're in Japan, there's going to be no conflict, so they'll just leave. It's easier than having to have conflict with someone or have an argument or tell someone that you make me feel uncomfortable or whatever. It's easier just to go. So it's a bit sad, and there are probably many reasons. For example, we had to move house, or my child became ill, so I have to take care of them. Or especially in Japan at the moment, the older generation, my mother and father, I need to take care of them because they can't, get into a nursing home or whatever. So there are lots of different reasons for people stopping. However, it's just I wish it could be more efficient. Like, I wish you could have people join that would stay forever. But I think it happens in every martial art. But going back to that gatekeeping part and having the quality of person joining, it's very difficult. Do you let everybody in and then you have this big, like, cycle of people leaving when they realize they don't like it? Or do you select your people very carefully, knowing after talking with them that they are really serious about joining? So, and it becomes a little bit gatekeeping-ish kind of thing. However, that balance is so tricky. So, it's very difficult. Depends on the martial art as well, I think.
That's true. And as you say, even if you select the people who look like they'll be more committed to it, life can get in the way, as the examples that you gave.
I had this one story of a person who wrote a blog, a Japanese woman who wrote a blog, and she posted it up on Twitter. And she said, I'm kind of sad. I was hoping to start Kyudo, but this is my experience. And she put the link there. So I went and read her blog, and she booked a visit to a dojo, and she went and watched, and the head of the dojo asked her, like, why do you want to start Kyudo? And her reason was, it looks amazing. It looks really interesting, and I'd really like to try. I think that it will help me relax, this kind of thing. And he basically said, it's not a good enough reason. I'm sorry, but we can't make you start. And she was like, what? Okay. So she basically got told no, that her reason wasn't good enough. So it was kind of like a job interview, and she had no idea. So I think, like, just that kind of thing was like, wow, he's pretty strict. But then I think he's really he's the person that's going to be teaching her, and he doesn't want to waste his time. So I'm just like, I can understand both sides of the the thing. However, I feel sorry for
I
her.
wonder what the right answer would have been.
Exactly. Yes.
I'm not sure. She needs to find a dojo that's more willing and flexible, I think. That's okay with just everybody, people that have more time. So I'd say, yeah, in their case, he didn't have enough time to be able to be teaching new people sort of here and there. He needed someone who was committed, I guess. But yeah, it's just kind of sad to read that sort of story and know that it happens to Japanese people all the time as well. Yeah.
And so was she able to find somewhere else, or she
Well,
decided not
so
to?
this is the thing, the dojo that I help run together with my senpai in Tokyo, which is a once a week dojo, is for everybody. So I said, hi, I don't know if you're in Tokyo, like we have a dojo and you're welcome just to come try once, try 10 times, come stay forever. Like there are other options for you. And there are other options like that flexible kind of dojo. We rent equipment and we'll show you how to do everything. And, you know, you can just come as you like. And there's no membership or anything like that. So I did leave the link there. However, yeah, we're waiting to kind of see what eventuates with that. But there are very flexible dojos as well. So I just want to make sure people know, like, there are other options.
This is just a very short like comment. Like they're also, for example, the equipment for Aikido is not particularly pricey and it lasts a lot. But also, imagine, yeah, for other martial arts, it's an investment to go in, basically.
Yeah.
Is that the case of Kyudo? I imagine. I don't
Yeah,
know.
so Kyudo, I wrote a post and it was hugely well received. How much does Kyudo cost? Was my post that I made on Instagram, and then I got these people making their own, like Aikido and Aikido and Iaido, other people posting about how much you know the hakama costs, how much. Yeah. Anyway, so the thing with Kyudo is, depending on the dojo, until you buy your own equipment, you borrow secondhand things from the dojo, because gloves, bows, and arrows, they cost, you know, however much. I buy mine from like the recycle shop, though. You know, we have the app Mercari, and it's just like an online, how can I say, like recycled clothes and recycled sports equipment and this kind of thing. So yeah, I've picked up all the arrows that I use, they're all secondhand. But yeah, it doesn't have to be expensive. And then my keiko is 100 yen, so $1 US.
Wow.
Yeah. My annual fee for the dojo, including the registration for the Japan Kyudo Federation and the Saitama Kyudo Federation and my dojo registration, all together, it's like, I think it was 7,000 for the year. It's 3 different organizations annual fees. So what's that? It's like $70 US. So it's, I mean,
so just for our British viewers, 100 yen at the moment, which is how much you said your a class
one
is.
time, yeah.
One class, 100 yen is about 60 pence at the moment.
Yeah.
Just to give you an idea.
Yeah. Yeah, so very cheap, and that's just because I do live in Japan, so I guess it's where it's at. However, people do say to me, like, it looks so very expensive, but I mean, if you're in Japan, it really isn't. So
yeah, there are ways. So in terms of equipment, there are ways.
Yeah, and Aikido, Iaido, you can buy used anything you want, because you'll have many naginata, everything you can get used, bogu, all the different kendo bogu, everything is you can get it recycled, very cheap. For people who have left, especially club activities from high school and university, especially around this time of year, you'll get huge amounts of used Kyudo equipment, which is really interesting. But yeah, it's just interesting that the stereotype is Kyudo is very expensive. However, here in Japan, it isn't really. Until you start, you really decide you're going to keep going and you'd like your own bow. But I bought my own bow, I think, after 2 years.
You
So
had
yeah,
to be convinced and to say yes.
yeah.
I think it's probably safe to say that it depends where you are, and as you say, in Japan it's very different from if you're in the UK or if you're in South America, for instance. I know a lot of people in South America that in Brazil specifically, Aikido is a very, very expensive art to practice, but in terms of the lessons and the equipment and everything. So wow, I didn't know that. That's really interesting.
Now Cathy is going to start Kyudo in Japan.
Don't tempt me. Well, the uniform is very beautiful, so
that's the main reason. I think are there other bases of gatekeeping as well?
Going back to Kōryu, a very good example of a Kyudo Kōryu, or a very old school of Kyudo, is Ogasawara-ryu. So I can send you guys a link. You can put it on the podcast. However, they have Instagram, they have Facebook, they have online seminars in English. If you would like to join their classes, it's like they're so international. And this is a samurai etiquette, yabusame and kyujutsu, or Kyudo, Kōryu. So they're 850 years old, and they are their how can I say, their marketing and their branding is so good. And I remember when I first started Kyudo, seeing Ogasawara-ryu, it looks very, very scary from the outside. Like, their Kyudo is very beautiful. The aesthetic is very beautiful. I mean, they do yabusame, and they do reho, which is the art of samurai etiquette. So you learn to walk and stand, sit, bow. Everything is like perfect. And everybody learns this at the school before they go on to do Kyudo or Kyubajitsu, which is yabusame.
Yeah.
So everybody has the most beautiful way of walking and standing and like just being. And I remember thinking, like, wow, it's very intimidating and very scary. However, I took one of the online courses I've taken in Japanese and in English with the headmaster of the school. You're like, join a Zoom seminar. It's so scary. But actually, he's really, really nice. And this man is a doctor during the day. And in the weekends, he teaches people as a sensei. It's just like, it blows my mind. Anyway, so they're the most amazing the history and tradition that they keep in their family, the Ogasawara family. However, they're so open to other people seeing inside. Like, he'll give me a seminar and he will teach me all these different techniques, which you would imagine it's for members only. However, you join the seminar and this kind of thing, he'll give you a small amount, not the whole lot. However, it's just like the balance that they've struck between open and closed. You'd imagine that their Kōryu would be so closed and difficult to join and very, very elite. The branding and the image is just so beautiful, and so it looks really elite and scary. However, talking to the people that do this are in this Kōryu, Monji, and visiting their dojo and this kind of thing really changed my mind. And I realized how they are very good at keeping the balance between the hidden, or the secrets of their tradition, and getting people interested via like social media and showing them different parts of the Kōryu that they can try to themselves, that will impact their daily life even if they don't join. So it's like, wow, they're such geniuses. Like, you have to have a look at their website and stuff, definitely. But
yeah, please share it with us. That would be great.
Okay, yeah, just they're a very good example for me of keeping tradition alive for 850 years while still being balanced, and letting people see inside and being flexible and open to having non-Japanese speakers. You can even learn in English, which for me, that kind of blew my mind. I was like, that's amazing. That's so cool. Yeah, so usually you'd have to speak Japanese to be able to join a Kōryu in Japan. The fact that
That's
they
what I
have
was going to ask, actually. Yeah, I just had a question, just touching back on we were talking before about gatekeeping and people writing to you saying that, you know, they're not able to find information about things.
Yeah.
Do you find is it gatekeeping specifically to kind of keep foreigners out, non-Japanese out?
So I think, okay, so I had this example of a woman living in Kyoto who had gone to different dojos, a non-Japanese woman, and she wanted to learn Kyudo. However, her Japanese wasn't amazing. And they told her no, that she would need to, she was of the understanding that it was because she was foreign. However, I have a feeling it was because her Japanese wasn't conversational. And the reason why was, perhaps, I'm erring on the side of caution, however, I think it was a safety point of view. So if you, you are working with weapons and this kind of thing. However, the thing with Kyudo is that it's physical and it can be taught by touch. But this was in Corona when teaching by touching, it became sort of not really allowed. And you're not supposed to, and just using your words to teach someone Kyudo is very, very difficult, I think. So I have a feeling it was sort of the timing coincided with the fact that she couldn't speak Japanese and this kind of thing. So I said, just go back to them once you're more comfortable speaking. Take a Japanese speaker with you to make sure that there are no misunderstandings about the exact reason why they cannot accept you. So dojos in Japan haven't been accepting Japanese and non-Japanese people just because of coronavirus. They haven't been doing the beginners classes. However, this year, they started up again. So going back to your question about gatekeeping, it's I think it really depends. So a lot of the time it's for a safety reason that people get turned down. However, I'm very I have my antenna out for anybody that is getting turned down saying no foreigners, because that will just I will go and send I will be there sending messages and contacting people on their behalf if they're getting turned down because they're not Japanese. It's more likely to be that there's nobody available to teach them in English. Yeah, so
if you're listening and that's you, you know who to contact for help.
Yeah, there are. I mean, I've asked on Twitter, my hive brain on Twitter, I've said, people in Kyoto, is there any English speakers in any of the dojos in Kyoto? And I get a reply, oh, yeah, I speak English. Or there's a Chinese guy at our dojo who speaks English. Your person who's looking for a dojo in Kyoto is welcome to come to that one. So, I mean, all I do is, ask. I throw it out into the world, and I get people, contacts, and I mean it's a good network on Twitter for Kyudo as well. So we always overcome the problem.
It's probably more open than people imagine. It is actually more perhaps easier to get in and access these arts than people might imagine.
Yes.
Yeah, but
I think so.
It's the I'm thinking that when you haven't done any martial art and also you don't know what to look for, so that's a barrier that it exists for everyone. You don't know. So it's really good that you're there, showing availability. There's no silly questions, just ask and we'll see.
So my experience was not good when I was trying to start. I saw it, I went back home, I Googled, and this was 15 years ago, and the Federation didn't have there was no good homepage at the time. I went to my city council and everyone was like, we have no idea about Kyudo classes, I'm so sorry. It's oh my gosh, my Japanese was not wonderful. But yeah, and I mean, I had children, and it was giving birth and the toddlers and everything like that, and then one day I got a chance to start. However, I remember that time looking for information and I couldn't find anything, and there was no Instagrammer that could show me like where to go. There was no girl on Instagram who would be like, I'll search up a dojo for you or whatever. So it just really that kind of impassioned me to help other people. So if anybody needs information, I'm always available. Yeah, because it was hard. It was hard work to find the entrance, especially in the days before social media. You can tell how old I am, but yeah. Yeah, so just coming from experience, like it is quite confusing. But then once you get that link, they have a beginner's class starting on this day and ending on this day, and you have to apply by this day. This is the dojo. Here's the link. Go with a Japanese speaker. Go visit and say hi. And yeah, I have good stories of people who have started and continued, which is nice.
That's excellent.
That's great. Jess, we want to ask you a final question. Why do you do Kyudo, and what drives you to continue?
So the reason why I do Kyudo has changed from when I first started. And I think this is with all martial artists, their motivations change over time as they gain more and more experience. So initially it looked cool when I saw it. And when I watched, I was like, it's so calming, it's so peaceful, it's so quiet. It made me feel really, really calm. And I thought, wow, what would it be like to actually do that? Like, and then I started, and it was the funnest thing ever. And yeah, I couldn't remember the kata, and it made my mind explode, and it was like too confusing and difficult. However, it was never like a sad thing, or it was always amazing and happy and fun and positive. And yeah, now, like I mentioned before, my life is super hectic, and I have 3 children. My youngest child has special needs, and she takes a lot of my time. And so we have therapist appointments and this kind of thing, and hospitalizations, and every day is different. And I have work and this kind of thing too. So Kyudo is like a place where I can go to really, really calm down and spend time with myself. Even though there are other people in the dojo, Kyudo is very, you can just spend time with you, yourself, the target, and the book. So it really provides me a time. I kind of go every day. I'm sort of like a maniac. So it provides me like a space for meditation every day for this amount of time that I'm doing it, where I just forget about the outside world pretty much. And I can just concentrate on my art, which is like, I don't know, like if you can imagine someone doing yoga for 2 hours a day, like they would be so chilled, like they would be so calm. So yeah, it's like that, doing yoga standing up, but it provides me with a way to balance and like center myself and my mind and my physical side. Sort of, yeah, it provides me a place to just calm down, and it's like my rock. So yeah. And I forgot.
Sorry, Jess. Yeah, I was just thinking about when we came to visit. Obviously, the Meiji Jingu dojo is not your usual place. It's not your usual practice space, but it's a very special space.
Yeah.
But the space itself, and probably this is true of your dojo as well. The space itself is something very peaceful about it. And so kind of like we were so grateful to just walk into that space where we were just halfway through our first week in Tokyo, and we were staying in near like Shinjuku, so crazy
busy, busy and loud.
And then when we came to see you, it was just like, wow, just this kind of like this calm came over. I think the two of us, Ivan would probably say the same as well. So yeah, it just when you were talking about it, that feeling came back to me, that memory.
Right. It's such a serene, kind of peaceful place to be. So if you can imagine just going to that kind of serene, peaceful place daily, like that's like having a little respite from your busy life. I mean, yeah, it's given amazing changes to myself as a mother, as like a woman, having confidence in my body, having confidence in myself. Levels of stress are very, very different. Things that used to bother me, I don't worry about anymore. And I am more motivated in my daily life. Things like learning to bow and etiquette and manners and Japanese, all these things that I picked up from learning Kyudo have been passed into my daily life as a non-Japanese person in Japanese society. So it's really helped me to become a more deeply impactful member of Japanese society, I think. So it's really given me another point of view as a long-term resident in Japan. So I'm super glad that I started, because now I have this connection to Japanese, the past of Japan, traditional things in Japan. This kind of really specialized area of knowledge that I'm gaining every day. And also it makes me feel good, and it looks cool, and people are interested in it. So it's sort of like really sort of from a whole, it's kind of perfect.
Amazing. That's amazing. I actually hadn't thought of what you just mentioned, that it kind of helped you to tune in with the society as well, in a way.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So things like the way you how can I say, your personal space and eye contact and this kind of thing. And I know with Budo, depends on the martial art, eye contact is very different. Naginata, we will like look you in the eye. Kyudo, we don't make direct eye contact. So this kind of thing, especially in Japan societally, if you're staring at someone in the eyes, it can be taken as quite aggressive. So whereas in New Zealand, if you're not looking someone in the eyes, it's taken as like deceitful. So it's like, anyway, but this kind of small nuances of body language and the way how far we should stand away from people, how to kind of be in contact with another human, and the way that this kind of really, how can I say, it's still interpersonal communication, however it's non-verbal. These kind of things, it really kind of like a sponge, it just goes in there, and then you do it without, your gestures and this sort of thing, without realizing. So it's probably affected me and helped me in many ways that I don't even realize myself yet. But positive, very, very positive ways.
That's amazing. I have a question more about your personal life, about your children. Are they growing up in speaking Japanese and like completely part of well, you've been there for 20 years.
Yeah. So for me, I taught myself Japanese. I came with no Japanese, and so I'm just gonna move my feet a little bit. There we go. Okay. Sorry. So I came with no Japanese, and I taught myself Japanese just through working and living here. And my children, on the other hand, so my eldest two children, they go to international school, which is in English. They do have Japanese classes. So they are bilingual. And then my youngest, she cannot talk. So she, at home, I try to speak Japanese to her as much as possible, because her care and her school, her primary school, is in Japanese. So her main language, she needs to be able to understand what the adults around her are saying. So since she was born, I've been speaking to her in Japanese. However, my my other kids, I speak to them in Japanese, but they will reply back in English, which is super annoying. So the house is a mix of like different languages, and I can speak both to a certain extent. I'm forgetting English a little bit though, but yeah, it's just you kind of, with your kids being in a country that speaks a different language to your own native language, I think you just kind of, some children, they take to languages differently to others. The way they learn language and learn this kind of thing, it varies child to child. So it's very like it depends on the kid as to how and which language I speak to them. Yeah, but yeah,
that's interesting. Super interesting. Thank you for answering that.
No problem.
You met our expectations. Like, the conversation was super interesting. There's two big topics with so many things in between. So yeah, thank you for joining us. And
thank you so much for having me.
You've been listening to Maai Perspective, where women talk Budo.